2, 1.
It's time to level up, where there's power in knowledge, so come get what you need. It's time to
The
level up
LevelUp channel where power is knowledge. For this episode, we're welcoming singer, songwriter, producer, and just an all-around good brother, Mr. Tyron Bogey Thornton. Welcome to the channel, brother.
Thank you for having me, my man. Thank you for having me.
All good. All
It's
good.
an honor and pleasure to be here, my brother.
As well, man. Thank you. I guess this is a long time coming, as we say. So thanks for coming.
No problem. My pleasure.
And before we go, something I want to get out. What people don't know is, and I want them to know, I believe in giving people their flowers. You helped me out a lot with this channel, with getting things organized with this from the start, with the backdrop, logos, certain things, format of the channel. What you guys may or may not know is the actual intro with the singing on the introduction. Well, that's Tyron. That's who you hear. That's here. So I pick his brains a lot on a lot of things. We go way back, and he's actually one of the people that I look up to. So I appreciate having you here, man. I have a lot of respect for you. So thank you.
I'm humbled. I'm humbled.
Man, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm humbled, man.
Yeah. So let's get this started, man. How are things going with you?
Everything's good. Everything's good, man. You know, of course, last year it was a big deal with live shows and music, live entertainment, things of that nature. But we're back up and running, man. So, hey, we're just looking forward to a great year. Well, we're past, half the year now. So hopefully we can end off
this
well.
year kind of blew by pretty quick.
Yeah, it did. It did, man. We had a lot of reschedules from last year as far as live shows and stuff like that. But yeah, man, we're keeping it moving and keeping it safe. How about that?
Good. So how's the crowds, man? The crowds, people starting to fill up again?
Yeah, I believe so. I mean, it just depends on the type of venue. You know, outside functions, a lot more people. Inside venues, it's a little bit more limited still, you know, because we're inside and, you know, the virus is still going on. So people are still continuing to be safe. So it's okay for me, man. I could do either one. We just make sure that we're safe and, you know, do what we do.
Yeah. But you've been pretty busy. You've been pretty busy. In fact, all y'all been pretty busy. I keep tabs with Bryson and with AKA Cupid and Raw and yourself, man. Y'all been busy. Y'all been doing a lot of stuff. Y'all been moving around quite a bit.
Yeah. It's getting there.
Yeah, man. Much respect to you on that. Keep it rolling. Keep it rolling. So let's start off, man. I really want to get into this and get into you. You know, when I first posted this on Facebook, a few people was like, man, this the one. Because a lot of people know you and a lot of people know your backstory, but a lot of people, you know, may or may not. So the purpose of this is also to tell how you got started, to give advice to new and upcoming people, you know, but to really tell your story. And the hopes is that you can motivate other people and also give other people, whether new, young or old, advice, tips, you know, on how you did it, with the hopes you can help them get to where they're trying to go. Hence, we leveling up.
That's right.
That's what we do. Right. So, man.
Oh yeah, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So tell us. Formally introduce yourself, and if you can, just tell us how you got started in music, and what got you into it, and what led you down the path that you're on today. That it's been a long journey for you, but can you tell us? Just give us some insight to who Tyron Bogey Thornton is. Who's that dude?
All right, that dude is a guy born in New Orleans, Louisiana. Grew up in the Lower Ninth Ward. Went to Thomas Alva Edison Elementary School. So if we go into how it all got started musically, my mother was a singer. My dad was a singer. He actually sang gospel quartet music. My mom was a singer, and pretty much, man, the entire family, we just grew up around music. I mean, from babies on up. My family, you know, growing up in the Thornton household, it was never without music. Our mother was very instrumental. She said I was singing before I was even talking. And she did that with each and every one of us. I was the baby. So from my oldest sister on down to me.
How many times?
It's 6 of us. Okay. It's six and 7, really.
Okay.
It's 6 of us in one household. And in that household, it was full of music. Like I said, man, my mother It wasn't a day without music, and she was there from the beginning, right? So I remember growing up, you know, my mom having my older brothers and sisters in the living room, teaching them music, you know, teaching them different songs and stuff like that. And I couldn't wait to do it. And so, man, just growing up, you know, I remember one of the first songs she taught me was a Commodore song called "Three Times a Lady." That was the first song ever on recording, right? So my mom always kept the tape recorder, and every time she taught us a new song, she would record it, right? So, you know, before that, I know she said I was singing before I was talking, but that was the first actual recording, me singing "Three Times a Lady." And so, you know, that was it. But that goes, you know, we're gonna go get into "Three Times a Lady" because that's a group called the Commodores. We've got to get back to that later. But yeah, man, you know, going to elementary school, I was in kindergarten, and I believe that was my first public performance. I was in a class called with a teacher named Miss Dejon. And I don't know how Miss Dejon knew I knew how to sing, but I remember singing in front of the class. You know, other classes coming in to hear me sing. That was the first, I believe, public show I had in kindergarten with Miss Dejon. Went to a very, very good school, man. Thomas Alva Edison Elementary School. Had a great principal. May she rest in peace. She just passed away a couple of weeks ago. Dr. Anita H. Crump. She really, really was instrumental in our community, man, and molded each and every one of us. And so she was, you know, later on in my elementary school years, from fourth grade, you know, getting into the first choir ever. We had I had a director by the name of Albert Hadley. Came in from a major choir called the Gospel Soul Children of New Orleans, and he was our first elementary school choir teacher. And I got my first solo, you know, fourth grade, you know, I was in a class, Miss Dandy, and we keep in touch to this day. Miss Dandy walked us down to the audition, and she walked us to the audition. She walked us to the audition, right? First of all, she asked, "Who knows how to sing?" There's a few of us in the classroom saying, "I know how to sing," or whatever. So I said, "Hey, I know how to sing." She said, "All right, come on." So we went on down to the audition. And you know, Albert Hadley was sitting there. So man, that was the beginning. He got in the school choir, fourth grade, fifth grade, sixth grade. Like I said, he was a very, very well-known choir director in New Orleans, and he got us in a lot of places. Man, we would sing at City Hall. We would do school tours during Christmas season, singing at other schools. You know, singing at for their lunch, Christmas songs, Christmas carols, singing at the Jazz Fest. You know, all that good stuff. And
so he was on the circuit, as we say, at a very young age. He was on the circuit.
I don't even know how we got into the Jazz Fest, but we were there. And yeah, you know, he was very instrumental, man. And, you know, fifth grade, I got into my first talent show. My brother and sister, they were singers as well. I mean, they were active singers, and they got into their first talent show when I was in the fourth grade. When the fifth grade came up for me, I got a chance to get in the talent show with my brother. And we sang a duet, "The Girl Is Mine" by
Michael Jackson and
Paul McCartney. Yeah,
right.
Sang "The Girl Is Mine," and the bug hit me right then and there. That was the bug, Easy. So fifth grade, "The Girl Is Mine," singing Michael Jackson and hearing all the girls scream. That was the bug, right?
That's the bug. That's so,
hey,
the bug.
From fifth grade, sixth grade, seventh grade, eighth grade, hey man, we went talent shows annually, and got a chance to get into a talent show called the WYLD when I was in the eighth grade, which was a big citywide talent show, right? So it was almost like the New Orleans Apollo. We just didn't have a Sandman, but it was like the best of the best. The biggest artists would come down, open up the show, or they would, you know, not even open up the show. They would perform at the show, and then what we would do, we would be the entertainment. And it was first prize, second prize, third prize, stuff like that. And that was a really, really good experience as well, because we got a chance to meet major entertainers. We got a chance to be on TV. And the crazy thing about that show, that is the only show where we rehearsed for 9 weeks.
Wow.
For a talent show, we rehearsed for 9 weeks, man. And so that was my first, you know, experience with you know, major talent shows. And
so I want to ask you something about that. You said there were major acts on that show.
Mm-hmm.
Going through the circuit, and maybe it happened for you, you know, before then, when you got a chance to go to those type of shows, and just getting into it and just starting, how did you know that you had what it takes to perform at that level? Because there's levels to it, right? There's levels to it. How did you know at that particular time, or maybe it came before that you were actually on that particular caliber of performer or singer or entertainer to actually be with those type of performers?
I knew because they probably had about 1,000 people to audition, you know, and they only picked maybe the best 15, right? So, man, we would be crowded into an auditorium, and then they would call, you know, you have these numbers. It was almost like American Idol. You know, they give you a number, they call your number, and everybody's in there, man. It's just folks everywhere. And I'm talking about New Orleans, right? So, hey, we were a city of music, a city of major, you know, entertainers and
major entertainers.
Just great music environment, right? So I just did what I did, man. You know, just did my very best. You know, I had a couple of talent shows under my belt from the 5th, 6th, 7th grade. And the best advice that I received during those years was from my mother. You know, we would get into talent shows and we would win first place every year, right? And my mom wasn't like, oh, my baby, oh, you're so talented. Oh my God, you're the best in the world. My mom, every time we won or I won first place, she'd be like, it's always room for improvement. It's always room for improvement, man. And I'm so grateful for that, because she was absolutely right. When you get to a level and you think that's it, that you've lost, because there's always somebody who's going to be better. So, you know, she always instilled in us, man, to always know that there's always room for improvement, and keep striving, man. Just keep moving and keep growing, and never think that you've reached that you know, the end, because there's never an end in this business.
That's right. So. That's right. And knowing you now, man, my daughter asked me, how long have you known Mr. Tyron? Man, I was sitting there thinking about it, man. That's almost 25 years. And you know, you talk about your mom a lot. Your mom appears to be the rock or the cornerstone, especially, you know, with music. She was very instrumental with you, especially at a young age, in molding you and in teaching you and pushing you along. But you're right. That's one thing that I know about you, because you've done it to me a lot of times. There's always room for improvement. It could always be better. Let's do it again.
That's right. That's right.
Let's do it again.
That's right. That's right.
I don't know if you want to tell a quick story about you and I went in there and we were doing something and talked about it the other day, and you said, would you tell me, Tyron? Would you tell me something doing harmless? And you said, I just told me, listen, do it again, or that sound right to you, or would you tell me?
There we go. There we go. Yeah. So, you know, of course, later on in our lives when we met, I was doing recording and stuff like that. So I would be the engineer. And of course, when the artist would say, how did that sound? I would say, how did it sound to you?
How did it sound to you?
But yeah, man, because, hey, you know, anyone who's ever worked with me, they know that I'm sort of a perfectionist, right?
Yes.
So it's not going to be right until I feel that it's right. And it was always for the greater good of the people, you know,
that is right.
Of the artists that I was working with, right?
Right.
And it was always for the greater good for myself. So I never, you know, I always strive to do better. Always strive to do bigger. So
when we heard that, Tyron, well, how does that sound to you? Well, we know it didn't sound good. That was that was a very constructive way of saying do it again.
Pleasantly put. Yes, that means that you listen to it. You tell me what you think.
What you think?
And I'm more than sure we'll be on the same page after.
Yeah. Do it again.
But yeah, absolutely, man. But you know, going to college, of course, you know, I guess you saw me in my first talent show in college. Yes. And that was a very pivotal point in my career, because, you know, I'm in a new university. Nobody know who I was. And I'm coming from New Orleans, and, you know, people were already established on campus. And, you know, I was a nervous wreck for my first talent show. And I felt like I had a point to prove because, like I said, everyone knew, you know, everyone had their people picked who they thought was going to win the talent show. So I had to bring my A game.
And back up the talent shows back then, Tyron, telling the viewers, back in those days, it's not like it was today. Talent shows were extremely competitive back then. In fact, if you look at the music industry from back then, there were two ways from what I saw people got opportunities. Either you would send your music to an A&R department and they would pick you up and you get a call back, or if you did a Jodeci, you went out and audition, Or the next spot was talent shows was a breeding ground for talent. Talent shows back in the day was a huge deal. And talent shows, especially when you get to universities, you mentioned New Orleans, were extremely competitive, very competitive things.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, absolutely, man. I mean, talent shows were, you better bring your A game, because there was always somebody else in the corner who was waiting to get that first place spot. But the difference between talent shows, I don't even know if talent shows even exist these days. I mean, because we have major platforms now. We have American Idol and the X Factor and stuff like that. But not everyone can get on those types of shows. But it was real raw talent back then. You weren't when we auditioned for a talent show, you were singing a cappella. It wasn't like you had a track or you had this background music. You had to sing, and so that separated the boys from the men, the women from the girls. And so if you were able to be a part of those types of shows, man, that meant a lot. That meant a lot. Yeah. And of course, again, that was my what can I say? My beginnings. Getting in different talent shows and exposing myself to different types of music and getting into different types of bands. Being at USL, I started off singing, by myself, singing talent shows by myself, and then got a chance to get in this band called For You to See. So we thought we were making dishes back in the day, right? So we really had live instruments.
Yeah, y'all did, y'all good.
All that stuff, man. And so, got a chance to get my feet wet in that. And I told a story on Facebook years ago. It's about always being prepared, right? Always, no matter what, because you never know when you're going to get that call, right? So musically, we had this group and we would rehearse all the time, right? Rehearse every week. We didn't even have a show. We didn't have a talent show. We didn't have a gig. We didn't have anything, but we rehearsed all the time. And man, by the time we went to go get into an open mic, we were well above everyone else's talent, right? So what they did was they didn't allow us to get in the show. They said, "Hey, why don't you guys come be special guests?"
Right.
And that was in Club Shadows, man. I never forget. And that says a lot. So, I know we're going to get into what I can, provide newer artists and things of that nature. But man, always be prepared. And I know we're going to talk a little bit more in depth later on, but always be prepared, man, because you never know when you're going to get that call.
Right.
But that segues into from talent shows in college to me getting a call my sophomore year in college, where I was then exposed to what you call the corporate sector. So now you go from elementary to middle school to high school, where we're just doing talent shows. And I remember being in high school, just graduating. I got a chance to do some live shows with a band, but I wasn't getting paid. So, hey, it was no pay. I mean, it was like you're doing your homework. We're going to give you a free opportunity to
intern, almost like an internship.
Right? I was interning, and it was crazy because, again, I was in some crazy places in the city of New Orleans, man, doing gong shows. Now, see, in New Orleans, we also had these things called gong shows. And every part of the city, like almost every night of the week, you would have these different spots that would do gong shows, and literally they would gong you off the stage. But to make a long story short, man, I was going through the city doing these gong shows, but I would actually be in the gong show, but I would also perform with the band for the gong show, because they always had like a live band. And then so the live band would play for the artists in those shows, right?
Right.
And man, I do the gong show circuit, and but I wasn't getting paid anything. Move forward to my sophomore year in college. My sister, who was also a singer, she knew a lady who had this corporate band, and I get this phone call. I'm on summer break, and I get this phone call. So of course now, Esau, I was only doing one type of music. I was just doing regular R&B, right? And of course, singing in church. Wasn't never in a church choir, but I was singing in church solos and different churches, First Emmanuel and Greater St. Stephen's with Bishop Paul Martin. But to make a long story short, I get this call to where I can really get paid now, right? Get this call summer sophomore year, and I get this phone call, and she's asking, "Hey, my sister told her that her little brother sang. And it was this corporate band where you got paid real money, right? So I get this phone call. I'm doing this interview, phone interview, right? So she's saying, okay, well, what type of music you do, and so on and so forth. And I'm telling her, oh, I do this, I do that. Da, da, da. I'm like, well, what type of music y'all do? And then she's telling me, we do big band, we do Motown, we do Frank Sinatra, Four Tops, Temptations. And I'm looking like, what are you talking about?
Right.
I'm saying in my mind, I've never sang any of that music. My mom played it, but I never had any interest in singing any of that music, right? To make a long story short, man, I asked her how much were they paying?
Yeah. How much you pay? I'll do it. Yeah.
How much are y'all paying? She said, we're paying X amount of dollars. I was like, what? Well, when is rehearsal?
Yeah.
She was like, you can rehearse tomorrow. We have a gig on Friday. So I'm like, I'm in easy. So the weird thing about this situation was it was like a Motown review. Now you got to understand, I just been singing in talent shows. I've never been in anything organized where I need to do choreography, right? Mm-hmm. Man, I get into this situation where they had two choreographers, Ben Bagby and another guy named Josh. They were in the group. And man, when I tell you, they whipped me into shape.
Really?
I mean, it was crazy. I mean, I really had to learn dance steps to pretty much every song, right? But man, it was a great experience. It was absolutely a great experience because it really broadened my horizons, right? So when I was just singing regular R&B, my music expanded a lot.
Gotcha.
Because then I'm singing Louis Armstrong, Frank Sinatra, the Temptations, Otis Redding, Sam Cooke, all these old greats, which is the best music ever.
That's right.
Because that music is still going on today.
That's right.
So that was a great experience for me. But so I started getting paid, man. So that is my introduction to corporate private. So for anyone who doesn't know what a corporate band is, they typically are hired, right? They're not going club to club or anything like that. A corporate band is someone they say, hey, Esau, I like Esau's band. And they hire you and you're already going to have a crowd. Everybody's already going to be there.
Gotcha.
Right? So that's a great thing. So that's what I mean by corporate. So I've got the chance to do a lot of being in Atlanta now. I got a chance to do pretty much 90% of the corporate functions here.
Yeah, you're busy.
Which I was exposed back in the early 90s, right? But yeah, of course, during that time, you guys didn't know, but I'm doing the corporate thing. So they were in New Orleans. We did a lot of gigs in Houston. So the weekends come, I jump in the van, and here I am going to Houston, singing all of these songs y'all never knew I was singing. And I get back to college, and then I do songs that, we all were familiar with.
Right.
But yeah, man, great experience. But, if we get to college, got a chance to meet a lot of great people. When you talk about Michael Lockett and Connie G, Kenny Wayne, Roy Anthony and Legit, Vest, all those major people. I mean, a lot of folks in Lafayette right now, I had an opportunity to either sing with or do do something musically with, right? Then it segued to before I left Lafayette, segue into Cupid.
Right.
The guy, the famous Cupid Shuffle. What is he? Quadruple platinum now?
Something like that. I mean, it's multi-platinum.
At least triple platinum.
Yeah,
right?
And the thing about that's going to keep on growing because that's one of those songs that's going to be,
oh yeah, that's a forever song.
That's the best way of putting it.
Song.
That's a forever song.
Yeah. It's like the Electric Slide.
Yeah.
Electric Slide is from the 70s, right?
Yeah.
Cupid Shuffle is from the 2000s, and it's going to continue on.
It's a forever song.
It's a forever song, man. So yeah, got a chance to. That was the last of what I did in Lafayette because, of course, I was into production and, of course, Cupid was in a group called. I think the first name of the group was called For Show.
Then it was the next one was Fifth Element.
And then the next one was Fifth Element when they got the record deal, and I had an opportunity to do some music and some vocal coaching and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. And they did the first album, and of course, after that, man, I left and came to Atlanta. But during that time, around the Cupid, not Cupid, but when I was working with Cupid, I was still doing the corporate thing, but I got a chance to sing with a group called Sensation, where I really, really learned what it meant to be a front man, right?
And explain that, Tyron. Get into that. Yeah, get into that if you don't mind.
A front man. Okay, so early 90s, I'm singing in this group, right? Singing in a corporate group, but I wasn't singing any lead songs. I might sing one or two songs. So I'm back there sweating and doing all these dance steps, right? But you always had a front female, or you had a front man, right? So a front man is the person who's really, really in control of the flow of the show, right? They're like the main point that you're looking at. They're the focal point of what's going on. No matter what's going on the stage, the front man
always comes back to the front man.
He's going to set the tone. Most of the time, they're going to call the songs. They're going to do all the audience interact. They're going to do all of that, right? And then so we were just, pretty much doing background stuff, right? So the front man is that guy. Like I said, they set the tone of the night. So I didn't know anything about being a front man.
The Bobby Brown of them.
Yeah.
Bobby Brown was solo. Yeah, you talk about the Brown show.
No, front man. Corporate band's always going to have a front line, or they're going to have a front female or front man. But I, got a chance to do some stuff with a guy named Tyron Bogey. Excellent. I couldn't have been under the tutelage of anyone better than this guy, Tyron Bogey, right? He was a master entertainer. He was a master at audience interaction, right? Because when you're a front man, you can't be scared. You can't be scared to talk to the audience and ask them how they're doing and jump in the crowd and dance and do the electric. So what did he teach you, Tyron?
What did he teach you more by looking, or what did he teach you? What did you learn from him specifically?
I learned timing came after the fact, but I learned a lot of things to say when you are interacting with an audience. And it's all about reading the room, right?
Yes.
You learn how to read a room. So what is reading a room, right? What is reading a room? Reading a room is being able to see what people are actually doing at this point in my show. And what can I do to either get them up and dancing, or if this is more like a dinner setting and people are just coming in, make them comfortable enough to do background music and allow them to speak to their friends or their loved ones. Because that's like wedding settings and stuff like that. And corporate functions are sort of the same. People are not coming to a corporate show and jump right on the dance floor. Normally, they're gonna have cocktails, and mellow music, and then at that point, that's what you're gonna do: mellow music, read in a room, right? And then after that, of course, it's gonna ramp up a little bit.
It's gonna build up as the night goes.
It's gonna build up. It's gonna build up. Now you being the front man, you got to read the crowd. Now, what song am I gonna do? What's gonna really get them out on the dance floor on this first song? Then at that point, once you get them out, you just continue to read them throughout the night to know what do I need to do, right? I was talking to Bryson, which is Cupid, not long ago, and I was telling him, I said, man, when all else fails and I can't get him on the dance floor, I say, Cupid shuffle. Down, do you dance? Automatically come out on the dance.
Automatically come up.
Automatically, man. But yeah, so like I said, those are the now listen, I could listen to every word that Tyron said, but everything is about timing, right? You can't, someone can tell you, Esau, when you get on the stage, you say, how's everybody doing? And blah, 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 and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. And you might want to say this, you might want to say that, but it's all about saying it at the right time.
That's right.
Guess what? If you don't say it at the right time, you will get no one's attention. So it's all about timing, man. But yeah, he really, really taught me a lot. And, of course, after being in the band with him, moved to Atlanta, myself and Gerald Green, go by the name of Q, my frat brother. We get to Atlanta and I'm still singing in the corporate band, of course. And, get to Atlanta and get a chance to get with a corporate band here now. A guy by the name of Kurt Hall. I met him on the road when I was in New Orleans, and he was already in Atlanta. So he was like, hey, Bogue, if you ever get a chance to come to Atlanta or you ever move, man, just let me know, if there's anything I could do. And so, man, I got my first corporate gig through Kurt Hall. But I got to go back a little bit. So we talked about the studio. I got into the studio the first time in New Orleans when I was like 12 or 13. A guy by the name of Alvin Edmonds, DJ Chipmunk. But he was the first guy to expose me to the studio in New Orleans. And that studio that he exposed me to was actually the studio that my dad's gospel group recorded their first album. So I didn't want to leave Alvin out.
That's all good.
Yeah. So get to Atlanta, man. Get with the group called Atlanta Beat. Stayed with those guys. Owner name was Chip Lunks, but stayed with those guys about 10, 11 years, right? In the meantime, during those years, I'm just in Atlanta trying to do music. I get with the corporate band, but I'm still pursuing my music career and get a chance to, people always think about Atlanta and going out and seeing famous people, going to where they are. Every famous person I've met, I just met them out and about. Right. When I met CeeLo Green, I'm hanging out in Guitar Center, real cool guy. And one thing you have to understand is that entertainers are going to be totally different when you catch them just not in that element of, hey, they're going to be totally different.
Yeah,
right?
they're in totally different mode.
Yeah, totally different mode. Chilling, no worries, no cameras. This guy's sitting in Guitar Center. I'm like, hey, I see Lil Green, or Ronnie DeVoe from New Edition. I'm in Guitar Center here in Atlanta, right? And New Edition was one of my favorite artists, groups. And I'm hanging out, in Guitar Center, and here comes Ronnie DeVoe. Now that was the first time I was ever starstruck, right? I'm walking in Guitar Center. I'm walking in, and this guy's walking out. New Edition was my favorite group because every year at the talent show, I sang New Edition back in the day. But man, Ronnie DeVoe's walking my way, and I'm like Ronnie DeVoe. It was like,
is that wrong?
Like Ronnie DeVoe, and he's like, hey, what's up, man? But yeah, man, every time I met someone, I met Chili from TLC, doing a show with a guy by the name of Sonny Emery. Got a chance to do some backgrounds with him back in the early 2000s. Sonny Emery is the guy, he played drums for Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Okay.
Right? He had this show, and we were in this rehearsal hall, and I'm standing at the desk, and Chili from TLC chilling at the desk too,
So this is a pretty good segue. I want to ask you something, because you've also done things on Sierra's album, right? Mm-hmm. You've met Sierra's, you've met a lot of people, but I want to ask you, because you've seen a lot and because you've been doing this for a long time, and your mother obviously exposed you to a lot coming up, who are some of the most influential, I don't know if you want to go musician route or singer route, who are some of the most musically inclined people, that's the way I put it, that have influenced who you are in terms of being a musician today? Okay. And then that's some other questions.
Yeah, that's cool. It's a lot of artists I really, really do like. And I believe, I like a lot of different artists now, or when I got into the corporate sector, because I hadn't been exposed to a lot of folks, right? I was exposed to the folks that my parents exposed me to, but as far as broadening my music wheelhouse. But, I like a lot of the older artists. I'm a Temptations fan. I think those guys were very, very sharp. And whoever was there, doing their music and their choreography was perfectionist,
Absolutely.
I love Stevie Wonder. I think he's a great, great artist. He's a genius, right? Stevie Wonder. Donny Hathaway is another genius. I love Prince. Prince is a musical genius. I love Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson is a musical genius. Those are all people I put in a genius box.
That's right.
And they were very, very influential for me as well, because, when you're learning how to sing, you want to learn how to sing from the best, right? So I grew up imitating all of these guys, from Donny Hathaway to Stevie Wonder to Luther Vandross to a lot of different artists who I felt that were great, great singers, right?
Right.
And so, those are the people that I looked up to. Of course, growing up in the 80s, there were a lot of great bands as well. Where they were real musicians, So I would say that's my foundation. those artists right there. Like I said, Donny Hathaway, Stevie Wonder, Michael Jackson, Prince. I mean, those are artists that I really, really looked up to, for sure.
I would have to agree. Everyone you named are probably mine too. Probably mine too, right? So I want to ask you this next question. You mentioned something about bands, and as of late, in terms of, if you look back in the 70s, there were a lot of bands. You look in the 80s, there were a lot of bands. And as the 90s kind of came in, you saw the bands in terms of what we saw. You had the Cameos, you had the Gap bands, you name it, the Kool and the Gangs. You got it in the 80s, and you had I can go on and on for the ones in the 90s. Mm-hmm. What is your perspective on the way that has the direction that's went? You have less bands today touring and entertaining today versus before. What do you think is up with that?
Yeah.
And then I have another one for you, similar question.
Yeah.
After that.
Live bands, it's a dying art, man. I mean, on a major level, right? On a major level, it's a dying art. Those guys that you just mentioned are really like still performing today, but there's no new bands, right? There's no new major artists like those guys were. When you talk about the Commodores and Earth, Wind and Fire and all those guys, they don't exist today. There's no like really new bands that are on that caliber and on that level as they were.
Why do you think that is?
Because technology today, right? The newer artists are not using live instrumentation. Now I can go to a spot tonight in Atlanta. I can go through the city of Atlanta and find live entertainment, everywhere. Real bands, but major bands, they just don't exist anymore. And like I said, I think it's dealing with the technological piece of music today, right? It doesn't take, when you look at Earth, Wind and Fire and the Commodores and the Gap Band and George Clinton, they had all of these instruments, right? They had to go in there and play these instruments for real, right? Those studio sessions were lengthy, they were long and I mean, grueling,
you had to play each part individually to build.
Everybody had to. There you go. It was a whole different concept back then. So now it doesn't take that anymore. Your band is in a box, and that box is the computer, right? So there's no need to get a live bass player or someone playing live drums or playing guitar, keyboards. You can actually create it from a computer now. And guess what? It's cost efficient, right? And it still sounds good. It sounds really good. So, the live bands, it's a dying art as far as major artists. And of course, other genres. When you talk about country and stuff like that, a lot of the country artists, there's still a lot of bands there. But as far as what we grew up on and what we listen to on a daily basis and things of that nature, it's not there anymore. No new bands.
I got another one for you, really good one. Mm-hmm. Same question, different category. Now, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, everybody had a group. You had the 5-man group. You had it was never beyond 5. You had the 5-man group. In the 90s, it went to the 4-man group, and then that started. You're not seeing too much of that either anymore.
Right.
What do you think? Give me your perspective on I'm using the word, the disintegration or the deterioration of groups.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's funny because I believe through the 60s and the 70s and the 80s and things of that nature, I don't think newer groups stood a chance.
Yeah.
When I say newer groups, that started in the 90s, right? In the 2000s, right? Things happened way back in the day when we look at the Temptations and, the David Ruffins and stuff like that. I believe now a lot of those groups stayed together a long time. When you think about a lot of those major bands.
Yeah, no, you go.
I don't think when you think about the 90s and the 2000s, those David Ruffins were already there.
That's right. Yeah.
And you get a good album or two, and guess what? The band, it disbands, right?
Right.
And then somebody want to go solo.
Yes.
Everyone else is kind of left hanging, right?
Left hanging.
So that's what I see happen now. Again, we still have, you think about like Boyz II Men, from the 90s and stuff like that. But when you talk about, the Drew Hills and the 112s and the Jagged Edges and stuff like that, they disbanded, and they're
Right.
kind of starting to want to get back together because they see that they're still needed, they're still needed within the music, because they
Right.
are, because that was the last real R&B that we know. Because I don't know what's going on with the 2000s. I mean, you do have a few artists that have come out in the 2000s who are sustaining, but that's almost like a dying art as well, So now we're infiltrated with just a lot of hip hop rap,
Right.
which I'm not knocking hip hop or rap at all, because I think that's very, very, it takes talent for that.
Absolutely.
As far as the artist and as far as the production, my hat goes off to that genre of music, but I just think that that's where we are now. I mean, even if we turn on the radio right now, you'd have to go to something very specific to hear some real R&B music.
Right. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think true R&B music is, I'm not going to say still alive, it's obviously still alive, but do you think it has the same impact as it had? It doesn't.
No,
Yeah.
because our kids, the younger generation, they're not exposed to that. We expose them, right? They're not going to turn on the radio and hear some good R&B at all, right?
Right.
They have to listen to us on a Saturday or when they get in our cars and hear real music, right? But they hear what's on the radio now, and what's on the radio is your standard hip hop and your rap. That's all they know, and so it's up to us now to teach the younger generation, what real music is like. And I like to take my kids all the way back. I will put on some Earth, Wind and Fire and some 70s and 80s
Yeah,
and 60s music and say, now that's real music. That's no auto tune. That's live instrumentation. These are real musicians, just to let them get an ear for it. But again, if you hear something enough, you think that's it. This is what it is.
Yes.
But we have to go back, grab the younger generation and say, hey, okay, let me expose you to this. Let me expose you to that. That's why even band in schools, that's very, very important. Band, because, that's a great, great foundation. I mean, I think with a kid learning an instrument, it can go a very, very long way. My son was playing saxophone, right? Sax is not a dying art because guess what? In my band that I have now, I have a saxophone.
Right.
Any kid who, and it's a great, great thing for their minds, to learn how to read music.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, man. And so I just think, we just have to at least expose the younger generation to what real music is like, real musicianship. And if we do that and they still listen to the radio, I think we have a good balance.
Right. Right. So thank you for answering those questions. That's some things that, that I missed the last time. So I want to ask you, I want to go back for a couple of other things. Tell us about what you're doing today. If you can, we talked about corporate bands and just paint a picture. You did an excellent job of painting a picture of your start and your evolution over into the man you are today and the musician you are today. Tell us what your world is today and how you're involved in music today. Okay.
Good question. Well, I believe about, I don't know, maybe like 10 years ago, I got involved, started with an organization, a company called King Size Entertainment, right? Big Mike Geyer. I was singing with the band, as I mentioned earlier, for about 11 years. So what I did was I would still do music with different people, do different production and things of that nature with different artists as well. But I got a chance to do some shows with this guy named Big Mike Geyer. He wasn't an Elvis impersonator. He had a real band, but he also did what you call these Elvis shows, right? So I got a chance to do these shows, just singing background, no big deal, for a couple of years. And actually, the funny thing about Big Mike Geyer was I used to see him on TV, right? He used to do these Elvis shows annually. So I could turn on a TV at any point during the year, whether it was January or August, see this guy on TV advertising this Elvis show, right? So, man, the good thing about it, man, I got a chance to get on TV on Fox and all that good stuff, man, and do that I saw on TV. But yeah, man, got a chance to do some shows with the guy, and he invited me to come over to King Size Entertainment And that's where the band that I'm currently with, Bogey
Okay.
and the Viceroy, was born. It was formed under King Size Entertainment. So it was a continuation of the corporate thing, right? Corporate, private, so on and so forth, where, you know, we go out, we do festivals, we do weddings, we do private shows. I mean, from the Ritz-Carlton, Georgian Terrace, I mean, any major hotel and country club in the city of Atlanta, that's what we do. We do a variety of music. I think that's what sets us apart from a lot of other bands. You know, we can go from big band, you know, that stuff that I heard back in the early 90s.
Right.
You know, we could do from big band through the 60s, through the 70s, through the 80s, through the 90s, all the way up to Outkast, to CeeLo Green, Bruno Mars.
Yeah, you guys are well-rounded. Like, you're completely well-rounded. You're very well-rounded.
It's multi. I call it multi-generational. So what that means is, if you come to a Viceroy show, or we're playing a reception, we're gonna do music for your grandmother, your parents, you, and your kids.
And you're right.
And your kids. So, you know, that's the best way that I can describe, you know, what we do. But yeah, a lot of fun, man. Got a chance to do some shows. Again, I mentioned the Commodores, singing 3 Times a Lady as a 5-year-old. Got a chance to do some stuff with the Commodores a couple of years ago. Got a chance to do some stuff with the old 90s group called Color Me Bad from back in the 90s, man. And so, man, that's what we're doing. We're staying busy. Again, just doing cover music. I'm still doing some production here and there. But the Viceroy is a good band. We do what we do. But as far as what I'm doing personally outside of that, the Viceroy, doing some production, I'll be working with another guy by the name of Ali. I'm going to be stepping into the Southern Soul deal. You know, you guys,
Really?
Yeah, man, you guys are really big on Southern Soul down in Louisiana. So I'll be working on some stuff with him. Another guy named DJ Baby J. I'll be working on some stuff with him as well. Those projects should be coming out before the end of the year.
That's my dude.
Southern Soul, man. Can you believe that?
Yeah, I actually, with you, I can't because you do a lot of different things, man.
Yeah,
people like working with you, so it does not surprise me. It doesn't surprise me. So for the aspiring musician, singer, or songwriter that's trying to make it and trying to track up to success, what's the best advice you can give him or her that's going to help them get to where they want to go?
Good question, man. Eat, breathe, and sleep it. Whatever you're looking or inspiring to do, learn as much as you can about it. And just, I remember, me figuring out that, hey, man, I think I want to be a singer, right? Man, I drove everyone in my household crazy because I would sing. And, just eating, breathing, and sleeping music, right? Because if you don't do that, it's always going to be somebody who's going to be a little bit more sharper than you in the industry, right? So if you can, if you decide that's what you want to do, it's almost like learning an instrument, right? You want to practice, read up on it, research it, because the music game is saturated with people, a lot of great entertainers, a lot of great artists. And with the saturation, what you need to figure out is what's going to make you stand out. What is going to make you stand out with all of the other major artists that are out there right now? And what I mean by standing out is finding your own lane. Because like I said, me growing up imitating Stevie Wonder and Luther Vandross and all these, Prince and Michael Jackson, all these, my mom used to say, hey, I mean, it's already a Stevie Wonder. It's already a Michael Jackson. It's already a Donny Hathaway. Who are you? So I tried to learn from the greats, and I could even go back to the big band artists like Frank Sinatra, Louis Armstrong, Tony Bennett, Nat King Cole. I mean, those were geniuses as well, right? So with me having that wide range of artists to be able to listen to study and things of that nature, that allowed me to develop who I was, who Bogey is today. And that's why I'm able to do the many genres of music that I'm able to do today.
Fantastic.
So that's that is my advice. And again, it's different these days. Back in the day, we had to go and singing a talent show, right?
Correct.
Now you have social media. You don't have to go anywhere. You can get on TikTok, Facebook,
Yes.
Instagram, and all these other platforms, you know, to put yourself out there. Can you imagine if we had that back in the day?
Oh, we'd be lit.
Oh man, I wouldn't. Oh
We'd be
man,
lit.
oh my goodness. I'd be. Listen, man, I'd probably be in England somewhere.
I know. Same here. Oh,
I would have
South
moved on a
Africa.
long time ago.
Australia. Yeah.
Brother, man, I wouldn't even be in the States. Hey,
Right.
you know, if we had, because we got by the sweat of our brow.
That's right.
We got in the cars and went to the talent shows. We scraped up enough money to go into the studio. You know,
Right.
we stayed up all night and tried to make things right. You know, singing background vocals over and over and over and over and over again because you couldn't copy and paste. I mean, we did it the hard way, right? And but today, everything's at their fingertips. You know, a kid. You know, when I think about Soulja Boy, you know, and Lil Nas X, you know, they did things out of their bedrooms just on a computer, right?
Yeah.
These are platinum artists now, right? So please, younger generation, use those platforms because they're there and they're available to you and they will absolutely help your career for sure.
Right. Well said and spectacular answer. That's what it's about. That really is what it's about. Anything else you want to get off the chest?
No, man. Hey, I just want to thank you for the opportunity to think that much of me to come to your Level Up channel, man. I'm very, very proud of you, brother. You know, you're doing great things. You're doing big things. And I just want to thank you for allowing me that opportunity to share my story and, you know, whatever advice that I could provide to these up and coming artists. Hey, man, I'm here ready and available because I've been there. I've been through the ringer. I've been through the fire. And, you know,
Absolutely.
just try to keep it going higher. That's all.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, a lot of us back here, the Mikes, the Brysons, we talk about you. You know, we all talk about Tyron. And one thing we all say, we have so much respect for you, man, because that perfectionist mindset that you have. And sometimes people look at perfectionist in I don't know, in a different, I don't know, way, like it's almost negative sometimes. Yours is in an extremely positive way because you really, not only are you good, but you have an astronomical amount of patience working with people. I don't care how good or bad one was. You always took your time out and you didn't just tell people what to do. You literally taught, right? So sitting down with the Tyron, it wasn't just a session. You always walked away. We always felt that we learned something. I always felt that I hadn't been doing it a long time myself, but every time I sat with you, I always felt that I learned something from you, you know? And, you know, one thing we always talk about, you know, we talked on the phone last weekend and we're talking about friendship, you know, and I always say that you should always surround yourself with people that you can learn from, right? People that you respect or people that you can pull from. And I don't mean from a negative perspective, but people that have something to offer you. Of course, you want to have the same relationship going back the other way where you have something to offer them as well. But you should surround yourself by those type of people. And you've always been that type of person. So I just want to be sure you know that. You know, we say that, but I want to be sure you know. And a lot of us that have worked with you in the past, we all feel that same way about you. You know, you're very sharp, you're very intelligent, and you're also very talented, but you're also just a real good, humble guy. Which, believe it or not, in this industry sometimes can be a rarity because sometimes with this industry comes an air of arrogance sometimes with people, you know, that you never carry that with you. You know, you're very humble and very respectful and engaging to people. So that's why you're so successful and you're going to continue to be a success. That's why I wanted you on here, man. I look up to you. I always have people tell you that, and I have a lot of respect for you. You're just a good dude, man.
Appreciate it, my brother. Appreciate it, man. And I think humility is the key. Humility and attitude is everything, right? You know, we're going through a lot in the world as it is. There's always a big rat race. There's always competition. And I've always been one to want to share with others the things that weren't shared with me in whatever capacity that it was, right? I mean, I can think about being in the studio with Mr. Fat, you know, the multi-platinum producer of the Cupid Shuffle, right? I remember Mr. Fat was in the studio just trying to learn, right? And I had just came from recording school and, get the chance to work with him and Michael Lockett, man. And, I think that's why we're still all pretty tight today, right?
Yeah.
Because we all kind of have that same
mindset, right?
And the same mindset, man, because that's what it's about. It's not about the rat race and competition, man. It's about lifting everybody else up, as much as you can.
Yeah. And facts is he's still that guy. And I'm going to tell you, Cupid is too, on and off. I'll call Cupid, I don't know, once every other month sometimes to pick his brain on stuff, or we'll just talk other stuff. And I have to say, every time I call, that dude picks up the phone. And if you don't pick up the phone, he will call me right back.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Every single time. He's still that same guy from Fifth Element days. He ain't never changed. He's just still that guy.
That's the core of who he is. It's
that's
not
the core
of
who he is.
And being a quadruple platinum artist has not changed him. You know him for who he is. And that goes a long way. He's always going to be successful. That humility, man, goes a long way. Mm-hmm. Humility, I think, outlasts talent, because you have a lot of talented artists out there. They're not humble. They don't show humility. They're not respectful. Mm-hmm. They're not trying to help other people. And, that's going to be short-lived, man. So he's going to continue to have a wonderful career. And I'm glad to have been a part of, him coming up in the music industry as well, so that's where we are, my brother. But once again, I'd like to thank you for having me, and much success to you as well, my brother.
All right, man. Talk to you soon. And as we say, keep on leveling up.
Level up.
Level up. All right, man. Later.
All right,
thank
brother. You.